All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. It's our Big Friday show. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. Albert is here.
Albert, thank you.
And Albert has curated a Florida segment that I'm looking forward to. How is it today, Albert? Is it a strong offering?
I felt more confident last week, but it's not too bad.
All right. It's not too bad, he says. All right. All right.
Last week was really good. We had a guy trying to deposit like 1 cent into a bank.
Oh, that's right. Last week was pretty extraordinary. But this week, I'm sure there are some nuggets in there that will be special. Speaking of whatever you were speaking of, you said something that made me think of it. The Biden press conference, much anticipated and scrutinized, was sort of in that, I think that what you said, like, not bad. I mean, there's no way for him to win. He could have gone out there and ninja'd everything, which he pretty well did, minus the gaffes. And I mean, the gaffes are, I'm going to give you a mulligan on the gaffes. But anyway, his every utterance is scrutinized, so it's really tough. But utterance should be a ding order. But we'll talk about the political fallout from this entire move to remove Biden from the ticket. Plus, we will get a real deep dive with Michael Shure in the second hour about the down ballot races and how the obsession with the down ballot is really, I think, one of the things that's informing the desire to remove Biden from top of ticket. So there are moving parts here that are beyond just evaluating, can Joe Biden win? The effect of Joe Biden on the ticket and how it may affect other races is critical. So we'll talk to Michael Shure second hour about that. Florida's bottom of the first hour, and of course also in the second hour is the Culture Blaster on Fridays. Michael Snyder reviews film, he reviews television, streaming, etc. So we'll get to all of that in the moments to come. If you haven't yet, please do feel very much at home here. You should kick your feet up, kick back, enjoy. We will tell you everything you need to know that we can get into this 2-hour window. We are a live show every day. We came from a talk radio station. We were a successful talk radio show, and then the station went away. It was closed by corporate heads. The corporation was in Atlanta, and so the station was in San Francisco. We decided to take the show to this platform, YouTube, and then we feed it out on all major podcast platforms. So we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Apple Podcasts. So wherever you listen to us, thank you. And if you are watching live or even in delay, most people watch this show in delay, please hit the like button. I don't know. It's free.
With your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod, baby. I don't know how it works, but it's supposed to be really important. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Speaking of really important, I had asked that I be reminded of something, and neither one of you reminded me of it. And for that, I hold you in. No, it's not a yellow card. It's just I'm a little disappointed today. We got an email into the Mark Thompson Show mothership. Senor Predicto is due for a day of positivity. It is true. Pietro is right that I will get Senor Predicto out in a moment. But this came in from Susan.
Susan, right?
Yeah, I have it now, Albert.
Susan, yes, Susan.
Oh,
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Don't try to now remind me after I've just said I don't need to be reminded
make
anymore.
Sure we remind Mark about Susan.
I think you really need to apologize for that.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
Because I don't want to digress too much on this, but you know what you did. We all saw what you did. Susan writes, "Hi, Mark. I'm technologically challenged when it comes to YouTube. I was trying to make a thank you contribution to your show in honor of my daughter, Kayla's birthday.
Happy birthday, Kayla.
It was a big
Woo-hoo.
birthday. Happy birthday, Kayla.
We're a day late, but we love you.
We're what?
We're a day late, but we love her.
That's right. The 7/11 was her birthday. That's exactly right.
That's a cool birthday, too.
It is. You're constantly reminded of it if you ever need a
Free
that
Slurpee
memory
every
jog.
birthday. Yeah.
So she said, I hit the thanks button yesterday on the clip of David K. Johnston and wrote happy 7/11 birthday to Kayla from Mama Sue. I wanted to donate $40, but that wasn't an option, so I gave $25. We always listen to the show on podcast, and so I was excited that Kayla would hear my birthday wish today on 7/11. She wrote it yesterday, obviously, but it wasn't read. I think I messed up. I do see it in the comments under the clip. Next time I'll use PayPal. Anyway, we love the show, and if it's possible, try to mention her birthday donation. She is a huge animal lover and activist. Thank you for the show, and I'm sorry about the loss of your father. We loved hearing him and your mom on the show. He was an amazing man. He must have been very proud of you. It's so sweet. Sue, thank you, Sue, for that. Yeah. And thank you for reminding me that we say happy birthday to your daughter, Kayla. It's a big birthday. I don't know what that means, Kim. Big birthday could...
A milestone birthday, likely.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I'm asking you, which one would that be? We don't have enough information.
No.
Could be 30.
I'm going to say 30.
30?
Yeah, 30.
30. Could be 40.
Could be, but I'm going with 30.
All right.
She wanted to donate $40, so maybe that was the...
Oh, maybe it was 40.
Oh,
yeah.
that's good. Albert,
thank you.
That's very good, Albert. Gosh,
Yep.
That's why you're in the producer chair right there. So that was really cool. Thank you very much to you guys. And I don't think there's any other email that requires immediate attention, although I did kind of get something that was provocative.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Let me just see if I can find it. First of all, new Patreon member, Carol, everyone. Carol, big shout out.
Big shout out.
You can subscribe on Patreon. The hot links are right under all our videos. And Gail Guthrie, HOF, thank you for a 10 spot
Big
and a
shout
super
out.
sticker today. What a great way to start the Friday. Thank you. I know we're slowly ramping up. You'll give me one more second. I just wanted to make sure I didn't neglect getting to anybody here at the end of the week on an email that I said I would respond to. You can reach us. The email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. You have to write the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com if you want to reach us. This quickly from Still Alive. $5. Do you know about Alan Lichtman and his keys to the White House? He thinks Biden stepping down would be a huge mistake. Maybe you could have him on to chat. Well, first of all, big shout out. Thank you, Still Alive. Yeah, Alan Lichtman is ubiquitous. You see him on many shows. His professorial knowledge of these keys that he has, everything from incumbency to I think coalitions, or he's got a bunch of these keys. They make sense. He has a good record of predicting election outcomes, and it's for that reason that I think he's afforded greater respect maybe during this conversation around Biden than he might otherwise get. I think there's enough out there on Alan Lichtman that I don't need to book him. I think we could book him. I'm doing the Young Turks today, TYT. I do, political commentary on TYT, and I'll be on their power panel today. And they do a whole breakdown of Lichtman, and then Lichtman and Cenk actually debate. So if you really want to see it, I mean, you can watch that. To your point, though, I mean, maybe we'll fire a flare his way. I see his videos is all I would say, and I'm well familiar with his predictions. I'm not swept up in, he's the man, if he can't explain it, nobody can type thing. That's not my vibe on him. I take what he says seriously, but I don't necessarily worship at that church. And I know he wants to keep Biden. And that said, I'll tell you that I'm leaning toward keeping Biden for the lack of mess associated with it, in part. So I look, I'm halting because this is a complicated thing, but I don't think Lichtman, is that his name? Lichtman, Alan, the professor, has all the answers. Oh, did you watch it? Still Alive? Still Alive said, thank you, Candace. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
For a 10 spot. Still Alive says, my honest opinion, he destroyed Cenk. Well, and I really have to check that out. Cenk got destroyed in that debate. Wow. I'll tell you what we're going to do. He made Cenk look a bit doofy. Wow, that's extraordinary because Cenk doesn't lose a lot of debates. I will pull some clips from that debate, and then maybe we'll put a call out to Lichtman. I guess in a way I kind of know the tune he's singing, but nonetheless, if there's enough interest, I'd be, more than happy to book him. How about Jay, $5 super chat?
Big shout out.
Thank you. Mark, huge fan, third generation KGO listener.
Woohoo.
I'm curious, why is no one talking about the release of the Epstein records and Trump being all over it? This is something that, you're right, Jay, has not received much oxygen. I think the Epstein story is something that the media doesn't want to embrace. It involves kind of radioactive subject matter, in a sense. I mean, I'm talking about the sexual nature of, predatory nature of Epstein. I also think that there are concerns on the part of media associated with defamatory and easily interpreted as defamatory statements and reports. That's my take on why we don't hear more of it. I don't think it's an organized cover-up of any kind. But that said, we should do more on it. And I will tell you, Albert, will you make a note? And Kim, will you make a note? Let's do something on this, the Epstein records, because they are damning, and they do suggest that Trump's all over Epstein, But again, it's guilt by implication that way,
The fact is the fact, the name's in the records, yeah.
Yeah, but again, being on the plane, being at a party doesn't necessarily mean that you. Sure. That's the problem with it. Karen D, you wanted to know what Mark thinks about what Jen Psaki said about Kamala Harris. She's the best alternative to Biden, but worries America is too sexist and racist to vote for her. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Karen. I couldn't agree more with Jen Psaki if that's what she said. I think, and that's why I asked Biden. I asked Rothman about Biden stepping back and Kamala Harris stepping up. I said, will America elect a black woman? I think it's, and you can say, well, she's not black. She's actually a person of color. She's perceived by the racist country that we inhabit as black. Okay, that's why I refer to her that way. But I think, sadly, I think this country is in the Stone Age still on this crap. And I think there is an undercurrent, at best, of misogyny, and there is an undercurrent that isn't so under anymore of racism. Now, I understand there's a portion of the populace that you're not going to bring over. The ones who go to the rallies, et cetera, they are, I think, I'm sure that many of them don't consider themselves with these biases, but I think when they actually get into the voting booth, it's like, let me go for the white guy. Yeah. I mean, it's just a sad fact. I feel like it's baked into American life. That doesn't mean it's not changing, but you do see in America now 2 steps forward, 1 step back when it comes to women's reproductive freedoms, the way women are viewed in the society, and when you look at race in America. It's a sad fact. So I agree with you 100%, or agree with Jen Psaki, if that's what she said. Sadly, I'm looking at, there are a lot of really good comments today, and I don't even know where to start. I want to get into this wraparound package on Biden, but Well, I'll tell you, Ruth, I didn't make much of this. I know you may. What about yet again another huge faux pas by Biden when he introduced Zelensky as President Putin? OMG, enough already.
He caught it right away.
He caught it. I don't think it's an OMG. I mean, you're right. It's an OMG because everything, as I was just saying, on a cellular level, his every word is being parsed and looked at. How did he say it? Did he slur it? Did he catch it quickly enough? So you're right. From that standpoint, it's an OMG. But I mean, from the real standpoint of objectivity, I don't think it really mattered. I thought the guy was pretty good. I thought he was really good on complex foreign policy issues. He knows the NATO alliance. He knows what goes into it. He understands the intricacies of what's happening in the Middle East. I mean, Donald Trump knows none of these things. He knows none of these things. So, I mean, if you're just looking for basic competence, I mean, clearly, you know, one guy is truly competent and the other guy is truly completely detached. And he's a lazy, golf-playing, vacant, petty man who wants to turn America into his own little plaything for personal wealth and for personal recrimination. That's all he is. So I think it's a stark choice. I mean, I'll put it even more sharply. Joe Biden could blow every introduction from now until November, and I'm still voting for him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, Now, it's also a sad fact that our politics are about media and messaging, but they are, and they always have been. A candidate's ability to communicate, a candidate's ability to connect is important. And Joe Biden would win this race were it not for what? The Electoral College. He would beat Trump in a popular vote, and he will beat Trump in a popular vote. But the Electoral College is really the thing that throws a wrench into things. I don't see, says Still Alive. I don't see him declining mentally. I don't see any signs of dementia either. His speech is just slower. He gaffes like he always has been prone to do. It's true, he always has been. Yeah. Throughout his career, and he walks slower. Yeah, Still Alive, I see where you're coming from, but I'm sorry. I do see some diminution of mental acuity on that stage, which is why we're having this conversation and why George Clooney wrote that whatever. I mean, the George Clooney suggestion is crazy. I mean, but George Clooney was and is a big Democratic donor, so he is a lightning rod for a lot of good things that the Democrats need, basically fundraising. That said, his idea that you open it up and, Kamala will have her shot, but so will, Josh Shapiro and Whitmer. And I mean, that's the kind of chaos that I feel the Democrats are capable of stepping into if they take the advice of George Clooney. And I like George Clooney, okay? But not on the advice as to what strategy should be pursued to elect the next president. Let me just look here. No Contendo says, other countries are watching.
Big shout out.
I plead with former American neighbors, get it right. To my black Americans, your vote impacts foreign black people and the world. That's certainly true. Mm-hmm. Wow. Very, very true. Thank you for the super sticker. Trevor Starr in Hollywood says,
big shout out.
Mark, on KGO, you were a guy on the radio that we all really like to listen to. With this show, it feels more like we all get to spend a couple of hours with a friend. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big shout out.
Trevor, I'm not going to cry.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Yeah, which one is you, Mark Thompson? I love it. Thank you, Trevor. Smash the like button for me.
With your iron rod.
I have so much to get to. Boy, the LA Times. Did you put that LA Times op-ed in there? Speaking of just going after
I put the
Trump.
New York Times one.
You put the New York Times op-ed? Where is that, pal? Is that at the top, or where is it? There it is. Thank you. Okay, I'll get to it in just a second. I do want to give you, I know all of you Biden heads, it's go Joe, right? Let me have this is a little morsel, a little nugget for all of the little For all the Biden boys and girls, here's some bowling with Biden.
Live from White House lanes, it's Bowling with Biden.
It's go time!
This man's going to win a lot of political offices.
Now, here's your Bowling with Biden host, Mark Thompson.
There is new polling out, and all of you little Biden heads out there, everybody wearing a Joe Biden button, or you've got your
lawn sign
that says Biden or bust, you will like it. I don't see it here in this. I had it here, Albert. Well, let me just tell you.
Okay.
No. Let me just tell you. Mm-hmm. It's a Washington Post ABC News poll. And they have the race tied.
What?
At 46. It's a dead heat. Now, admittedly, it's all about the swing states. That's, see my earlier comments about the ridiculous electoral college. But it is quite notable that for all the talk that Biden should withdraw and get off the ticket, this is some good news for Biden as he faces more scrutiny. 46 to 46. And both surveys at the national level and in key battleground states make it all within the margin of error. These are the same polls, I should say, that note that Biden, 2/3 of Americans, including 56% of Democrats, want him out of the race. So these, two things can be true at the same time, I guess.
Well, let me add this in, because while the polling might be neck and neck, about $90 million in contributions to a super PAC supporting President Biden's campaign is now being held back by Democratic donors. That's important money. He needs that money. This, according to the New York Times, they say the group of donors told the super PAC Future Forward they won't provide the funds if President Biden stays in the race. So
Wow. That's extraordinary. This from the LA Times: Biden's shaky performance raised concerns about whether he can win in November and prompted calls from prominent Democrats, columnists, and others for him to step aside. It's up to the Democratic Party to sort this out, says the LA Times. But it's time to refocus on the only candidate in the race who is patently unfit for office. Any office. And an imminent threat to democracy. Donald Trump. It's unbelievable that the nation is spending so much time on the question of Biden's verbal acuity when the greatest concern ought to be that his challenger is a self-aggrandizing felon and twice impeached election denier. Trump fomented the January 6th insurrection, shows contempt for the rule of law, shamelessly lies in pursuit of more power. He's an authoritarian who admires murderous despots, wants to jail his political enemies, and his public, and has publicly flirted with declaring himself a dictator on the first day in office. Mm-hmm. With fervent support from the Republican Party, he peddles cruelty, racism, and misogyny, demonizing immigrants as poisoning the blood of our country, demeaning women's looks and intelligence, and using disgustingly fascist language to criticize his opponents as vermin. He's a man who lied about his wealth for years to cheat on his taxes, whose business was convicted of criminal tax fraud, and who has been denounced by many former aides and cabinet members as a malignant narcissist who recklessly puts himself before the American people. That's just the first two paragraphs.
And it goes on.
The LA Times reminds us of the fact that Democrats are chasing their tail when they ought to be chasing Trump. The last paragraph of the LA Times op-ed is, leaders of the Democratic Party have to stop the self-defeating discussion about Biden's fitness and decide whether to replace him or unify behind him. And Americans must start hearing more about how the records, positions, and character of Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris and any of the prominent Democrats being floated as possible replacements make them all unquestionably superior to Trump. So it's sort of like do it or don't. But all this obsession is not helping. I think my bottom line is let Biden win us the election first and then call for him to step down and give it to Kamala Harris for the second term, so still alive. Yeah,
big shout out.
I get that, and I also get sort of the 3D chess of that. Like, let's win this, and then we can replace the head coach after we win the Super Bowl. So I get that. That was the LA Times in answer to your question, Paul. There's also a New York Times piece, which is damning as well. I mean, it kind of hits the same thing. They finally go after Donald Trump. They say he is dangerous in word, deed, and action. He puts self over country. He loathes the laws we live by. Donald Trump is unfit to lead. Next week, for the third time in 8 years, Donald Trump will be nominated as the Republican Party's candidate for President of the United States. A once great political party now serves the interests of one man.
Wow.
A man as demonstrably unsuited for the office of president as any to run in the long history of the republic. A man whose values, temperament, ideas, and language are directly opposed to so much of what has made this country great. That's their opening paragraph, the New York Times. It is a chilling choice against this national moment. For more than 2 decades, large majorities of Americans have said they are dissatisfied with the direction of the country. And the post-COVID era of stubborn inflation, high interest rates, social division, and political stagnation has left many voters even more frustrated and despondent. The Republican Party once pursued electoral power in service to solutions for such problems, to building, quote, the shining city on a hill, as Ronald Reagan liked to say. Its vision of the United States, embodied in principled public servants like George Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, was rooted in the values of freedom, sacrifice, individual responsibility, and the common good. And they go on. Mr. Trump, the party's conception of those values, Republicans set aside their concerns about Mr. Trump because of his positions on immigration, trade, and taxes. But the stakes of this election are not fundamentally about policy disagreements. The stakes are more foundational. What qualities matter most in America's president and commander-in-chief? Mr. Trump has shown a character unworthy of the responsibilities of the presidency. He has demonstrated an utter lack of respect for the Constitution, the rule of law, and the American people. Instead of a cogent vision for the country's future, Mr. Trump is animated by a thirst for political power to use the levers of government to advance his interests, satisfy his impulses, and exact retribution against those who he thinks have wronged him. He is quite simply unfit to lead. They go on. They go on. But it's again now another reminder. By the way, do the swing state voters, the people who are going to decide this election, read the New York Times op-ed or the LA Times op-ed? You could stop 100 on the street, and I'm guessing the answer is maybe 2 or 3 have. I mean, it's not, but I think it does inform a lot of the conversation, particularly within the Beltway. And so it helps set an agenda on some level. But I think it's worth noting. First of all, that's very well put. And those are 2 high-profile editorial boards, and they're basically saying, "Guys, you're cutting your own throat, essentially, with and the throats of all of us in America, with an election of Donald Trump." That is your Bowling with Biden.
That's all for this edition.
There's your new leader.
But join us again next time for Bowling with Biden.
Again, I thought he was good yesterday. He was solid, Aside from the gaffes, he was solid. I mean, Trump's tripping over himself with gaffes, too, and we could put that together, maybe next week, if you want to do a gaff off. Still probably in a gaff off, I still like Biden probably to win. He probably gaffes more. He's been a gaffer since the early days of his gaffing. So I don't know if you can tell much. Definitely he's older, but I thought he did a really good job yesterday. I mean, again, I'm not not a huge. Isn't there? There's a job in Hollywood of gaffer.
The gaffer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What
I don't
does the
think
gaffer
it means what
do,
you think
Kim?
it means. I don't know what the gaffer does. What's the gaffer do?
Well, can we find out, please, before I go to news? I'd like to at least wrap this segment up with a little bit of information.
It's an electrician in charge of lighting on a movie or TV set.
There you go. Very, very well done. Wow.
It's funny you mentioned Trump's gaffes in the context of gaffing. There's an article in the Huffington Post about President Biden's gaffes. Well, what about President Trump? And they go into how he's only 3 years younger than Trump. So they're pretty much almost the same age.
Then Biden.
And,
he's only 3 years younger
yes.
than Biden.
Oh, see, I misspoke. Look at that. My own personal gaffe.
It's, well.
And
we should remove you from the ticket.
Bad.
Well, I'll
have to step down. I'll step down in lieu of Kamala or Albert.
Yeah.
So they talk about how Trump goes on these rambling, weird rants about the strangest things.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, during a campaign rally, he's going off on this beautiful waitress. Then he's talking about Hannibal Lecter.
I saw that.
Then he's talking about, they say it's an alarming display by Trump, and it raises questions about his ability to lead the country, whether he should be running either. So... all things being equal, they've both got issues. So now we've got two men, I would say one with a good heart, one with a dark heart, but both have mental issues. So we have to go on the platforms. We can't go on the person anymore. Yeah.
I agree. I think that is that is essentially correct. I would say correct. Continue. If this were a game show, I would say
Put that coffee down.
Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. Let me. Let's. I don't mean to digress too much.
Let's talk about something important.
Okay. All right. So here's the story, everyone. Albert has curated a brilliant Friday Fabulous Florida. Not as brilliant as last week, he says, but there are some nuggets. So I'll give you a moment to phone people, to contact them, send texts like you kids like to send. Maybe you're on Discord. Maybe you're on Slack if you're at work. What are the other platforms, Albert, that you kids like? Discord?
Discord.
Reddit?
Like if we're sticking with the work-related, maybe Microsoft Teams. You can
Microsoft Teams, yeah. So get everybody on your team to rally around, because Kim's going to do a turbo news, and then we are going to rock Friday Fabulous Florida. Smash the like button like a boss. Give us a thumbs up. It's how we stay alive in the YouTube algorithm. I'll tell you all the other ways we stay alive, which have nothing to do with thumbs up, as the show continues. Great to have you here. Big Friday show, big doings. Michael Shure Politics. Streaming and movies in the next hour with the Culture Blaster as well, but Florida next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Speaking of President Biden, he sat down with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries yesterday, coming as a growing number of Democrats are calling for the president to bow out of the 2024 election. Jeffries says he expressed the full breadth of insight from his caucus during a private meeting with the president on Thursday evening. So far, 17 House Democrats and 1 Senate Democrat have directly called on President Biden to exit the race. The president is in a nearly hour-long press conference yesterday, vowed to continue his campaign. That Manhattan jury now will decide the fate of Bob Menendez. He of the Gold Bars. Yeah.
Gold Bar Bob is going to go to jury.
Perhaps. They should begin deliberating this afternoon. Jurors will have to say yay or nay to 16 felony counts involving bribery allegations. Federal prosecutors say the Democratic senator from New Jersey sold his office to help 3 New Jersey businessmen secure deals with Egypt and Qatar. His lawyer claims the hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and gold bars found in his home were gifts, also placing the blame on the senator's wife. maybe.
Yeah, again, they needed a new car and some walking around money, so I don't see what the problem is. So he does a couple of favors.
They were gifts, right?
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Now we know you can take gifts after you've done the favor, and it's all right. Before the favor, you got a problem. After the favor, you're all good.
During this trial, there's actually a businessman from New Jersey who testified that he understood that he was supposed to give $200,000 to $250,000 to the Menendezes so it was that kind of thing that in exchange for political favors, of course, in exchange for some kind of favor. But I believe in that particular case, it was to become a naturalized citizen or some kind of citizenship help. But you really see how Senator Menendez, innocent till proven guilty, I guess. But it seemed like his office was open for business.
Well, the jury will decide. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Have you felt the heat? Feeling a little heat? Yeah, it's hot. As a matter of fact, this historic heat wave is cooking the West. Millions from California to Colorado expected to deal with triple-digit temperatures into the weekend. Vegas hit 6 days in a row of temperatures at or above 115 degrees yesterday.
Jeez.
Today, Phoenix could hit 116. Sacramento, 111 they could see. Over the weekend, the heat will head into the Rockies and the Plains, where Denver could get temperatures over 100 today and into tomorrow as well. So yeah,
wow.
The West is a-cooking. They're having a problem at AT&T. A hacker stole information from almost all of the wireless customers, including records of calls and texts. The company announcing this morning the stolen data doesn't include the content of calls or texts or personal information like social security numbers or birth dates. It does include which numbers a customer interacted with and all data like how long a call lasted. AT&T says it's working with law enforcement and at least one person has been arrested.
Everything is going extremely well.
That's not good. Maybe your network needs to be a little more secure, people? I don't know.
Yeah, do you think? That would seem like
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Exactly. We do know what the problem is. You have a porous network.
They got a potential legal showdown in Alec Baldwin's involuntary manslaughter trial, and it'll have to wait until next week. The judge called for a recess, sent the jury home for the weekend. Rust Armorer Hannah Gutierrez...
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
Okay. That's right. Rust Armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed is in a New Mexico prison for 18 months for involuntary manslaughter for her role in the on-set shooting death of Helena Hutchins. The prosecution wants to call her to the stand. Her attorney says she'll take the fifth and not offer any testimony. So I don't know if that's going to be good.
No, I was watching a little bit of the trial, and I have to say I was a little bit bored. I'm sorry.
Were you?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and but I really tried to hang with it, but it wasn't bad, but you really have to immerse yourself in it so you understand everybody's backstory and why they're there.
Are you wanting more explosive testimony? Is that what you're wanting?
Yeah, I'm looking for a Law and Order moment.
Yeah.
Looking for that. You're out of order. You're out of order. You know what I mean? I'm looking for something. I don't know.
You, sir, are a liar.
There, yeah. I'm looking for that. Thank you.
Problems with the SpaceX. They're trying to recover from...
liar.
Okay.
Your pants
all right.
are on fire.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. We're moving on, though. Thank you.
SpaceX is trying to recover from its latest launch in California after its Falcon 9 rocket is now grounded. So things didn't go quite as planned last night. The rocket blasted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base, but something happened with the engine powering its second stage. It didn't complete a final burn, deploying 20 internet satellites too low in orbit. Elon Musk says they're trying to use thrusters to get them a little higher up, but he said he doesn't think it's going to work. So, yeah, that was a no-go. Bad news for that. Something bad happened in Kauai. The search for 2 missing victims from a tour helicopter crash in Hawaii off the Nepali coast pick up at sunrise. The body of one of the victims recovered from the ocean by a search and rescue team yesterday afternoon. It's unclear if that person was the pilot or one of the 2 passengers, but that tour helicopter went down. So sad. San Francisco cops closer to having new rules for car chases. The voters passed with Prop E in March, and this week the police commission met to review it. They talked about 7 amended policies, like maybe only pursuing a suspect accused of a felony or violent misdemeanor, letting officers use drones. Ooh, police drones over San Francisco. What? Wow. If approved, the changes will be sent to the police union for review with a final decision due in October. In Oakland, the police chief is promising action after a mass robbery at a gas station. He met with the owner yesterday, plans to make sure officers are efficiently deployed in the Hagenberger corridor. Well, we've known they needed somebody on Hagenberger for a while now.
The Hagenberger corridor is trouble in the Bay Area, the East Bay near Oakland.
So it's the Hagenberger corridor, right? It took 9 hours to respond last week when a mob of thieves spent 40 minutes in a convenience store. 40 minutes! And
this
the police didn't come.
This is the rap on them that they don't respond to. First of all, that it's crime-ridden, but then they don't respond to any 911 calls. Yeah.
The robbers were in the store for 40 minutes. The owner called it in, but was told to report it online.
That's just crazy. I mean, first of all, robbers that are on the scene for 40 minutes are already doing a crappy job because you got to get in and out. But then their crappy job is exceeded by the crappy job done by law enforcement because they don't deal with it at all. The 911 operator just refers them to the online website.
There's no rush if you're a thief anymore because you know the police aren't coming. So why bother rushing? There's no rush. Take everything.
You're right.
I mean, bring a bunch of bags. Take it all because you've got time to pack it up. Police made the case a priority when they saw it all play out on surveillance video.
Oh.
Speaking of thieves.
Well, they did make an arrest, though, you're saying?
No.
Oh.
What? Yeah. Took them 40 minutes to get there. Then finally, when they saw it on surveillance video, they're like, guess that was important.
This is no picnic, no summer camp.
Yeah, they need a TJ Hooker in there. He would have taken care of it.
I mean, good thing that people of Oakland pay taxes. Don't want the police and firefighters not to come when you need them.
Yeah.
In Fremont, a family-run gas station is trying to recover from a rash of diesel thefts. The Valero at Fremont Boulevard and Maury Avenue was hit for the 3rd time this week. Surveillance cameras caught a truck with special tanks parked at the diesel pump in the middle of the night. The manager claims the thieves use a universal key to get unlimited gas. He says police believe the fuel is most likely being sold on the black market to construction companies. 3rd time this week. I guess, if it works once, you're thinking, all right, I guess that really went well. Let's go back and get some more. Why not?
Jeez.
Okay. Yeah. Lastly, Billy Joel is getting ready to end his record-breaking residency at Madison Square Garden at the end of this month.
Wow.
The Piano Man explaining to Willie Geist on Sunday Today what happens after his massive shows. He says he sits in the traffic to get out like everybody else does after he performs.
Well, that shouldn't be. I mean, he's Billy Joel. He should be choppered out of there like the rock star that he is.
As a matter of fact, he's just, he's like, what is it, the common
man?
The common man. Yeah, after the show, he gets home, he lets the dogs out and takes out the garbage, is what he said.
Well, that's very nice.
At the final show, July 25th, will be his 104th at the Garden. So there.
Well, he is insanely talented, of course. How many times has he been married?
Let's see. There was Christy Brinkley.
Right.
There had to have been a second wife. I'm going to go for 3. I don't know what the real answer is.
Billy Joel. How many times has Billy Joel been married? You want to check it out, Albert? Can you look?
I do have an answer, so feel free to guess away.
Wait. I've got a guess.
Yeah, I'm opening it up.
Well, you're right. Kim's right. It's 3. I'm going to say 3, I think, but it's Christy Brinkley. I assume there was one before Christy Brinkley and one after Christy Brinkley, so I'm just going for 3. What is the answer, please?
The answer is 4.
4. Wow, that's a very respectable number.
4.
He is a show business legend. So
don't worry about him. He's just feeding the dogs, taking out the garbage, and getting married over and over again. He
needs that newer model all the time. Literally newer model. Wasn't Christy Brinkley a model? Yes.
Yeah. This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. It's a smash it with your iron rod and
Yeah.
you get
Smash
10%
it with your
off.
iron rod.
Why
By
do
the
you
way,
want the
isn't
10?
Billy Joel's daughter also a singer, Kim?
I believe she sung on stage with him, but I
Alexa
don't know.
Ray is her name. I think she is a
Yeah.
singer. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go. Tell me about Tenuta.
You say smash it with your iron rod, and you get 10% off across the board.
Love it.
If you're ordering a case, that's 20%.
Wow.
Do you see how this goes?
I'm
now,
loving
why
it.
is this important? It's important because it's good stuff and you actually want it. They've got the Mark Thompson, Why Are You Yelling Red? The, hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Yes, our
Pinot Grigio?
proprietary blends.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I know. It's exciting.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's 29 wine choices. There's 17 reds. There's 12 whites. They're really lovely people. As a matter of fact, they have a saying, give us 30 minutes and we'll be friends for life. So check them out. It's the Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. You can call Rich to get your discount at 925-699-4576 or shoot him an email, rich@tenutavineyard.com. Before you do that, though, check out the winery, which is tenutawinery.com, to see what you might like before you give him a call. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is The Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Who's Mark Thompson?
If you're just joining us, welcome. This was a radio show, came over here to YouTube, and now we go out on all the major podcast platforms as well. We're a live 2-hour show, and then, of course, we chop up the show and we release videos from the show, highlights, etc., and you can always watch the show anytime. Most people don't watch us live, but we love our live community as well. Very active, smart people, and they support us with super stickers, super chats, which is the way you can support the show on an ongoing basis. But the real community that really, frankly, supports our payroll and helps us meet payroll every month is on PayPal and on Patreon. And there are links to both under all videos. It's critical. We're in a little bit of a soft period right now, the summer, in terms of fundraising, etc. So I haven't really done anything special, like I haven't hit the alarm, but I really do appreciate all of you who are part of the support community because you're what we count on. We are here sort of with an NPR model, PBS model, which is basically, if you like this show, please help us keep it on the air. So, all right, Fridays are a different kind of day on this show. We will get heavily into politics with Michael Shure in just minutes. But Fridays bring a focus to a state that serves up the weird, the exotic, oftentimes the instructive. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
Well, there was a road rage incident in Florida in a parking lot. Happened in Volusia County. And Jasmine Sampson was in the middle of this.
Oh, Jasmine.
Jasmine, tough break. There is the booking photo, and we do rate all the booking photos on a 10 scale on this show. So the Mark Thompson Show booking photo meter. I'm going to tell you, I know, because maybe I'm a lib, and I don't know, but I feel she looks sad, And
a little angry. She's both sad and angry.
It makes me sad to see her sad, but yet she is at the root of this. So I'm going to give her a 7. You thought I was a little bit too generous? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going 5.
She's behind bars, is Jasmine Sampson, charged with burglary and assault and battery. This incident took place in the parking lot, as I say. It was a neighborhood center, and the person who felt victimized by Sampson says that she came up behind her after this woman had just dropped off her child at the rec center, and she tried to avoid Sampson, but she continued to follow her and yell at her. So they were in some kind of road ragey incident. Several people agree with me. Several people agree with you on the booking photo. That's when Sampson got out of her car, opened the passenger door of the other woman's car, the pickup truck, and threw what was lying on the seat at the woman. It was a backpack, which was empty, and a single piece of paper. Both items hit the woman. Police met with Sampson, who said in an interview with them after they Mirandized her that the other woman had blocked her in the parking lot and she had to drive on the curb to get around her. She thought that the other woman had intentionally blocked her in, she said. Still, she was placed under arrest because the other woman said she wanted to press charges. She's been released from jail, apparently. I have to say, I understand road rage and being angry, but I don't know. When somebody opens the door, to be fair, opens the door of your car, I think it's on. I'm pressing charges. Yeah, I agree.
They've crossed the line. Yeah.
But as to whether or not there was real damage done, it sounds to me like there might not have been. A Florida man breaks into a house, drinks their alcohol, eats their chips, while the family does what? Well, they run, is what they do. A dude with a lengthy criminal history back behind bars now again after breaking into a family's home and barricading himself inside. It was the Lee County Sheriff's Office that gave us word that a family was in the pool at their Lehigh Acres home. I hate it when bad things happen at Lehigh Acres. Investigators say that the dude went up to one of the children and touched their face before retreating into the house. He's really a weirdo. That's when the family climbed a fence and escaped to a neighbor's house. There's actually video of this, I think. Although, better not show it, Albert. I think it has gunshots and stuff. I think it'll just get us demonetized, which usually Florida does anyway. Here he is, Jose Barbosa, arrested at the root of all of this.
He's a weird-looking dude.
Barbosa is not looking like the kind of guy that even a makeover would help. You know, some of these guys look like, shave him, give him a new do. I don't think it's going to help Jose. But we do have to rate it. I'm going to give him a 6. Nancy says a 10. On his, he gets a 10 for crazy. People have you're allowed to evaluate it any way you want. So Vilma says a 6. Well, the cops surrounded the house. He eventually came out of the house, but deputies said that he refused further commands, so they used a less lethal shotgun to hit Barbosa, take him into custody. And apparently, while he was in the house, he helped himself to a couple of alcoholic beverages and a bag of chips. So,
put that coffee down.
Yes,
I mean, have you ever accused people who ate all the chips, and then you don't believe members of your family when they say they didn't do it? At least everybody in the family knew who ate the chips. This guy.
That's right. There you go. It's this is the Lehigh Acres Police. Put down the bag of chips. We have you surrounded.
He totally does, Biggie 61. He looks like a shady Adam Sandler.
No, maybe.
Yeah.
Meantime, on the other side of crazy, a Florida man wanted for a heist. It's a $600 heist at Publix. He was heisting, anybody? If you guessed meat, give yourself points. Another
I would have said beer,
meat
but
heist.
Meat, huh? Meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the wanted poster. The search is on for a man accused of stealing nearly $600 worth of meat from a Publix in Southwest Florida.
He's a growing boy.
Apparently.
Gotta have the meat.
I don't know what he's doing. He left the store in a 2009 Toyota Camry, which is just the kind of getaway car you want when you've got all that hot meat. Good luck in catching him. This video is pretty crazy in this next story.
Is that a brisket
It's
down your pants?
It's a wannabe Tarzan standing on a tree to show off to his friends 60 feet above a Florida creek. And then what happens to the branch he's standing on? It snaps.
Uh-oh.
And Christopher James Sykes Smalley falls into the creek below. He smacked into another branch on his way down.
This was not well thought out.
This is Crystal Springs in Vernon. And the footage just into the Mark Thompson show can be viewed now. And there he goes, smashes the other, and then in. He wanted to jump 60 feet into the swimming spot, but the branch he was standing on broke. And then the branch he was holding onto above his head also cracked. It was a double cracking of limbs. This is incredible. Sometimes the best laid plans, right?
And it looks like he fell into an area where there's a dark spot, like rocks or wood down there. Yikes.
Nothing good happened, Kim. And, of course, the additional humiliation of the small boat of people you can see there that were ready to applaud him. They had to go from applause to rescue. He reported that he typically jumps from a lower branch, but he decided to try leaping into the water from a higher branch this time, and it didn't really work out.
You can't set that bar too high, Mark. Just wanna,
Yeah, Albert would have told him, "Hey, dude, you actually should just stay on the lower branches. That's what's worked for me all my life."
He does like a body cam, and I'd love to see. You could see it very small there on the chest, like a little chest cam. I'd love to see the footage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that has yet to be released. He was only sustaining minor injuries. A wild moment as a Florida man strikes an officer with a stolen car in a high-speed chase that ends, and this is why it's great Florida, it ends in a swamp. Yes. A carjacker arrested in Florida as he knocked over a cop with the stolen vehicle. Led cops on a high-speed chase. It ended in a swamp, as I say. Body cam video is out from the Orange Police Department. Moments after the officers confronted Alijah Amin Mahdi Balk. He was 20 years old. He was parked outside an apartment complex in Daytona Beach in a reported stolen car. There he is.
Ooh,
one of the officers.
Look at him in the swamp.
Yeah, I will offer a thought on his booking photo. Kim, you first, though.
I'm going to give him a 7. Yeah.
I think it looks kind of cute. I'll give him a 7 also. Yeah, well done.
Not the best and brightest fellow. I wonder if there were crocs in that swamp or gators.
Well, he picked a very nice car to steal, though. I'll tell you that. He stole a Mercedes. I mean, a gorgeous Mercedes sedan. Yeah, maybe show everybody that sedan he stole, Albert. So he didn't just jack anything. So Amman attempted to get away from cops, and when the cops opened the door to try to jack him out of the car, he backs the vehicle up, causing the door to knock the officer to the ground, Kim.
Nope, you don't do that to the cops.
Hey, hands up, hey, 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 the officer yells when he's back on his feet, pointing his weapon at Balk, who speeds away. Well, the chase was on then, with a police cruiser attempting to cut him off at the end of a dead-end road. Balk's vehicle, the stolen Mercedes, could be seen hitting and scraping the front end of the cruiser as he fled. The officer warned other cops that the suspect could do the same to their car. This guy's out of control, Kim, is the point. Yeah. The suspect eventually loses control of his vehicle, comes to a halt, officers trying to surround his car and yelling at him to surrender. But instead, Balk jumps out of the car, decides to flee on foot, lost a shoe in his flight. He runs into a wooded area. But the carjacker quickly finds himself in front of a swamp. Before he can dash to avoid the wetlands, an officer cuts him off and tackles him into the water. Two officers then wrestle with Balk. They pull him out of the shallow swamp, and he begs for them to let him go. He could also be heard complaining about the twigs that he was being pressed down on as officers detained him. Please, guys, the twigs, come on. Don't hit the face. Don't hit the face. He was charged with aggravated battery, aggravated assault, law enforcement officer, etc., and he is in custody. And finally, a Florida woman is suing SeaWorld.
Good.
She's suing for all the wrong reasons, maybe, or right reasons. See, why is there still a SeaWorld? Why do we make these animals perform for us? But anyway, a Florida woman is suing SeaWorld, accusing the Orlando theme park of failing to prevent an attack on her last year. She says she was attacked by a dolphin. She says she suffered serious injuries in the attack, claiming that SeaWorld employees failed to intervene or prevent it. The lawsuit doesn't clarify the exact nature of the attack or her injuries. It sounds to me like she's just trying to get a check.
What is she doing so close to a dolphin?
It was during the dolphin show. It was another guest. I think there was not enough security measures in there for her, I guess. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, they do let you spend a moment with the dolphin and pet the dolphin or whatever. It's all awful, but she's just trying to get. She wants $50,000 in damages. With that, we must pick a favorite. There are a couple of morsels here that are particularly good, and I'll remind you what you just heard. A Florida woman arrested after throwing a single piece of paper along with an empty backpack at that woman during the road rage incident in the parking lot. A Florida man breaks into a home, drinks some alcohol, eats their chips as the frightened family escapes over the fence to a neighbor's house. The Florida man wanted for the meat heist, $600 in meat from the Publix store there. The Tarzan wannabe, standing on a tree, plunges 60 feet into the Florida Creek when the branch snaps and the branch he's holding on to snaps. Like it was a double snap. The wild moment that a Florida man strikes a peace officer with the stolen car, that Mercedes. It was a high-speed chase, and it ended in a swamp. Hey, dude, watch the twigs on the arrest. And finally, the Florida woman who is nuisance suing SeaWorld after the alleged attack during a dolphin show. And to be fair, I don't mean to soft pedal that. That is very Florida. It's a nuisance suit. It's SeaWorld. It's dolphin. I understand why Albert put it in there. So we need to pick a favorite. We don't want to. We have to. It's in the bylaws of the show. I ask you, Kim.
I'm with either Colors of the Wind or Francine. It's either Branch Dude or Swamp Man. And though I like Branch Dude video, I have to say, ending up in a swamp is a uniquely Florida situation.
Yeah.
I'm going with Swamp Man.
Swamp Man is the choice.
I mean, he's shoeless. He's got twigs sticking in him.
Yeah.
He's rolling around in a swamp with the possible gator bait. Yeah.
What is the, this is funny. Lee Kopp says, have to go for the meat heist. We are a 2 Camry family. Loyalty, man. Chip Burglar's getting some love. What's ahead in the chat? In the
Swamp Arrest
poll?
has over half of the votes so far. So
the Swamp Arrest, is that what you said?
Yep, Swamp Arrest.
Okay.
I like the meat heist. The meat heist is great. I like how he's at large. He's at large. They're seeking out the media's help to find the man stealing the meat. So
if you see this man, take no action yourself. He may be carrying $600 worth of stolen meat that he can use as a weapon. He will slowly poison you with cholesterol.
They should just look at every local barbecue. Like, just talk to the people who's having the who's inviting people over. You know, that's where they could find the meats.
I'm going for the high-speed chase ends in a swamp. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Please indicate your favorite in comments. We do read all of them, and that is Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
Tune in again next time for more. This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Great to have everybody here. Smash the like button like a boss, if you would. It's a free thing. And if you haven't turned on the notification bell, do it. You'll always know when there's any new video. We'll have some content that's not on the main show that we'll be dropping. So I want you to be aware of that anyway, and at least know it's up there. You don't have to watch it, but obviously I'd like you to at least know it's there. I'm so excited that we're talking to this guy today because what a week we've had. And I think this is going to be the first of, or maybe this isn't even the first, it's going to be yet another in a series of interesting and problematic weeks politically and in the future of America. And this guy has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. Put it together for Michael Shure, everybody. Michael, it seemed as though there was little that Joe Biden could do, even if he aced the exam, that was going to turn back the call for him to step down. In other words, the damage done by that, quote, debate or television appearance was so significant that even as impressive as he was, I thought on some of the details, his gaffes are, of course, amplified.
I mean, that's what is so interesting about this, is that Joe Biden's been making these kind of gaffes for 40 years. He's been calling Vice President Harris Vice President Trump. He's been calling Putin Zelensky since before any of these people were names we knew. That's just been kind of his stock and trade. After that debate, those little things can't be forgiven, because people are paying closer attention. So people who didn't know that this was part of Joe Biden's basic makeup of making flubs and gaffes and that sort of thing. People who didn't know that pay closer attention to it now. And so it matters more. Whether or not it matters in the big picture doesn't matter. It matters to voters who are less familiar with this, or it furthers a narrative. So, the debate only furthered a narrative. People were talking about Joe Biden being too old to run for president in the months leading up, in the year leading up to that debate. What that debate showed was, hey, we might be right. And, I think there's nothing he can do to undo that. A really good press conference, which last night wasn't. It was a fine press conference. It showed that someone who we know is good on the issues, who we know is good on foreign policy, who we know has a familiarity with the geopolitical world, flexed that a little bit. But there wasn't anything, he did a lot of his Bidenisms. He did a lot of his starting to say something. He's forgetting what he's going to say, so he says anyway, as a way of getting out of that. Charming, usable, it works, but it's not enough. And I think that the Democrats are realizing that. And so I don't think it's, I don't think it's happening tomorrow, but I think that after the Republican convention, the Democrats are going to get serious about seeing who their nominee is going to be. And it's not set in stone.
The polling I was mentioning earlier is oddly the latest Washington Post ABC News poll. It's a national poll again. But it has the two dead even, 46,
Yeah, I mean, and that just shows you how winnable this election is for the Democrats, not how winnable it is for Biden, to me, anyway. And I think, we make light of some of or I certainly make light of polling. I think these polls matter because now there are people paying closer attention. And the fact that Biden is even with Trump in this poll, which may be an outlier, may not be, I think tells us that this election, even with this doddering president who has seemed to be over the last couple of weeks, even with that, Donald Trump is beatable. Even Joe Biden can pull even with him. And I think that, and I'm somebody who, Mark, I don't say bad things about the president. I don't think bad things about him. But I think from a purely strategic standpoint, you have to look at this candidacy not being the best shot for the Democrats.
It doesn't take an old white guy to beat another old white guy. You believe that you could get a Kamala Harris in there? I want to hear your answer, and you can answer let's consider that part of the question. But I was saying earlier, the wide open George Clooney thing where everybody is in, and it's we're going to talk about issues, and it'll be great, and you're going to hear all of the things that the Democrats concern. That struck me as an absolutely awful idea.
Well, it's coming from an actor who has a lot of money, who's in the tequila business and can give money and can dictate. The Democrats would be foolish to follow the edict of George Clooney, and they won't. I mean, he's the kind of person who reaches Democrats on a huge level, right? I mean, so the Barack Obamas, the Bill Clintons, the Joe Bidens, so they're up on a stratosphere. But rank and file Democrats don't pay a great deal of attention to that. And the Democratic Party itself has rules, and they're not dictated by George Clooney. They're dictated by money people in some ways, but that's not how the process is certainly not dictated that way. So the Harris question is complicated now, but it's really not that complicated, in my opinion. I think that the Democrats have more to lose by not having Harris at the top of the ticket, were it not to be the president, than by putting her at the top of the ticket. And the zeitgeist around Kamala Harris now, how we think of her today, is going to be very different than when she is the nominee. Because when someone is the nominee, it brings this sort of gravitas, it brings this attention. You rise to that occasion, and she will have the whole weight of the Democratic Party behind her in a way that they won't be questioning their candidate as they are right now. Some of them may say, this isn't my favorite. A lot of people don't like the vice president for whatever reason. I think people will be forgiving for a finite period of time until November, and that bearing that she comes out squeaky clean, and people and that the best parts of Kamala Harris rise to the occasion. The other thing is that the politics of it look really good too, getting voters energized. So you're imagining now Harris instead of Biden, but what you're not imagining is vibrant, energetic, sharp, quick retorts versus Joe Biden, but also versus Donald Trump. So there's going to be this energy that this race has lacked from both sides for quite a long time. And I think that it's going to energize some of the Democratic bases that need energy. And that's women, that's young women, that's African Americans. And so I really think that, and young voters to an extent, who see something that they can have an easier time identifying with. Doesn't mean she's going to win, but I think she has a better chance of winning than the president does.
That's extraordinary. And so implied in that banner that Kim put up, is America too misogynist and racist for a black female president? Implied in your answer is no, America's not too misogynist and racist.
It's implied that it's not. I mean, we elected a black president before. That's not new to the Democratic Party. It's not new to the country. It was a male, but it was a male with a funny name. It was a male who was portrayed as Muslim by some of his opponents, even if his direct opponent said that was not the case. So the chips are always stacked against a minority running for national office. There's no question about that. But I think that what Harris has working against her more is that she's not terribly popular. Vice presidents tend not to be terribly popular, and some of them win. I mean, I would say that George H.W. Bush is an example of that. He wasn't very popular. He ended up winning. Al Gore, somewhat popular. I think people found him to be kind of middle of the road. Whether or not he won can be argued. Will be argued forever. But I think that the notion that Kamala Harris, the race identity of it is too. I'm not saying lazy in that way. It's just too easy to go to. I think that the problem she's going to have are the preconceived notions of how good she might be. And one thing, Mark and Kim, to remember about Harris is one of the issues that Democrats have in their Achilles heel along with immigration is crime. And what was Kamala Harris? She was discomfiting to a lot of Democrats because she was too tough on crime. And at this time, she might be just the flavor of Democrat, whether you like it or not, for wooing independent voters. She's someone who was too tough on crime for Democrats in California in many ways, as Attorney General and as District Attorney. So I think there are reasons to find her appealing in ways that haven't even been explored yet.
One of the, you listed her attributes or the things that she could bring to the campaign. One of them, I think, is to have a woman, and I don't necessarily know if it matters what woman, but in this case, Kamala Harris, at a time when they're taking away women's reproductive rights. So this is a key issue for a lot of voters. It might be that it is the time for a woman simply because this has become such a hot point.
Well, yeah, I would agree as well. And I would agree that, when you're looking at two old men, I think we've moved past the idea where having a woman in charge is not a bad idea, right? I mean, we've seen women leaders in smaller countries around the world who have acted with success. We've had a female Speaker of the House. Other countries that we are very close with have had women lead them. I don't think that I think that issue gets amplified. I think it's pretty clear where those voters go, Kim. But what, to your point, is that she can energize them in ways that 81-year-old Joe Biden might not be able to do. She can get younger voters to say this vote matters, and she can articulate it in a way that Biden's unable to do. Though it's pretty clear what the differences between the two are, I think, between Biden and Trump on the issue of reproductive rights. But I think that if you're going to use the Dobbs decision, it's best to have somebody who can scream it from the hills to the valleys to the hollers to the sea. I mean, that's what you need, and that's what Kamala Harris would certainly be able to do, and many others would be able to do. And it's an important election for that reason. And look, I mean, there's a chance there would be 2 women on this ticket, right? I mean, if Kamala Harris gets the nomination, and that's how the Democrats have this out, there's a chance that there would be another woman, whether it be Amy Klobuchar, whether it be Governor Whitmer Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. If they look at somebody else, that would be a kind of exciting thing for this country. Whether or not it would work, we don't know. But I think the energy behind a candidate, Barack Obama type energy, Ronald Reagan type energy, Bill Clinton type energy, that would change things a lot in this race.
Kim Champagne is saying, old people don't need reproductive rights, Kim. The seniors will decide this election. I don't know about that. In the midterms, you saw the women decide the election. You saw a big, robust presence on the part of women in this country. And that, so I don't know if I buy that.
You did, but that point is right, is that seniors vote more than young people do, right?
Of course,
so
that's true.
In that aspect. But I don't think seniors are going to not vote for, Democratic seniors are going to be an active voting majority no matter what. So to say that they wouldn't vote for who the Democratic nominee is, I think is probably not right.
Cheryl says, my older friends that will vote for Biden don't like Kamala. That worries me, Cheryl says.
And Cheryl's right, but Cheryl should listen to what I'm saying about the zeitgeist about Kamala now. It will be a different person. If she is the nominee, it will be a different energy, it will be a different presence, and there will be momentum behind her. You can't think of the vice president as the vice president now, were she to be the nominee and to be to ascend to the nomination in a way that we haven't seen in any of our lifetimes in the history of this country, really.
I don't mean to assign blame always, but I do blame the Democrats a bit for running Kamala Harris down. I mean, whatever perception there might be, and I understand vice presidents are tagged with stuff that doesn't matter or whatever. They're kind of, but they gave her a real basket of bad stuff: the border, the drug problem. I mean, and I think she tried to do the things that you do when you're dealing with the border. You go down to Latin America, you try to arrange funding, you try to relieve the pressure, in effect, of migration at the border crossing. But that said, I feel as though they can successfully, I don't want to say rehabilitate, but, build up Kamala Harris's image. But I feel some of what has happened is a little bit their fault.
Well, I don't know if it's their fault or the way that our politics works. I mean, I don't know that. I think you're right about the fact that she can easily be built up, and whether or not she needs rehab, perhaps she does in the mind of several voters, the friends of some of the people who just wrote in. But I do think, and family, I think that what you're saying, look, it's one thing to say she's going to be the point person on immigration, but the administration has to back that. And the priorities of administration go to what will help the president. And that's just the natural course of American politics. So they're not looking out for helping the vice president. In fact, when things don't go right, it's much easier to blame a vice president than a president, especially when that president wants to be reelected. So you say, oh, immigration hasn't gone well. We charged the vice president with that. It didn't work out. Let's see what happens next time. But I'm going to take over next time, or whatever it is. So I think that, the vice president, the office of vice president in this country is a silly office. It's obviously necessary. I mean, there are 4 presidents who never had a vice president. There's nothing in the Constitution that says if a president dies that the vice president has to appoint another vice president. I mean, there's so many funny rules about that. Or there wasn't, at least until I think 66 or 67. So I just think that it's trust me on this. If she is the nominee, it's going to be different. Might not be better. I might not be right about that, but it's going to be a different vision of this person that will be out.
I want to get to Project 2025 in a moment, but I want you to answer this question from Jan. Michael Shure, do you think it's inevitable that Biden will be out since he is losing big donors?
I mean, it's not inevitable. If Biden stays in, most of that money comes back because the Democratic Party still and the Democratic donors still want to defeat Donald Trump. If they say it's being withheld or frozen, were he to be the nominee and it be decided and it's set in stone, a lot of that money is going to come back. I think Biden will be out. First of all, I do say he's the president of the United States and he's the nominee of the Democratic Party. It's really up to him. And the Democrats have a little bit of time here. I don't think there is a ton of rush. First of all, the Republican convention is next week. And so to people like Jen, I would say that if you're looking at this as having to be a hurried process, it doesn't. I think Democrats want people to see who the Republican Party is. I think they want them to see who Donald Trump and whoever his vice presidential nominee is out there in public. They don't want to distract from that. And they also, the president's going to be out in the country next week. He's going to be in Austin at the LBJ Library, which, poetry,
which is weird.
Which poetry would say he's the last person to drop out of a race, but he's accepting an award. This could be a good week for the president, but only he can decide this, and he will. And again, the pressure on him is there. It may not be public, but it's there. Some of it's starting to trickle in publicly. But I think there's a shot in the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's not going to be next week, in my opinion.
2025, this Project 2025, it's being mentioned now by Biden. I thought that was interesting. And I don't know how many Americans really are focused on it, and it's worth focusing on. I know people who watch this show and listen to this show know about it and are focused on it. But it's essentially a template, a strategy, a 900-page strategy from the Heritage Foundation. We played some, I believe, some sound earlier this week from the guy who runs the Heritage Foundation now, the think tank. And it's draconian in its treatment of women's reproductive rights. But we don't, they reshape the entire federal government. There is essentially a gutting of the government that we know, and there is a new loyalist government put in place. I wonder if you could speak to two things. A, this Project 2025, and the degree to which you think specifics will stick to Trump and even get out into the, is it too complicated to get it out into the zeitgeist, or will it get out there?
The Democrats complicate things very often. They don't dumb them down to their discredit. And I don't mean dumb them down as wrong. Sometimes you have to be able to say what something is so that it's digestible very quickly for people, right? I mean, it's, Ford, whip inflation now, right? I mean, whatever was in the inflation articles when Ford was running for re-election in 1976, he was about getting rid of inflation. And you knew that. They have to condense these things. Democrats are not good at condensing them. If they say that what Project 2025 is, in essence, is a consolidation of and a further empowering of the executive branch, which plays like dictatorship. It's not, but it plays like dictatorship. If they're able to say that, and they're able to get people to say that, and they have Donald Trump on tape, on video, on audio saying, on my first day in office, I'm going to be a dictator. He meant, according to him, that it would just be that day, but you get the idea. They have to be able to condense this into something that's approachable, because it is a big, you said the word reshaping, that's what it is. They want to reshape American government. And they have the ear of a lot of the people that would be in a Trump White House. Many of them would be part of, former Heritage Foundation members who wrote this. And so that's
and former Trump White House.
Of course. Yeah. No, I'm saying in the future, but yes,
I'm
you're
sorry.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's who shaped this. And so it would behoove whoever the nominee is, and it's Biden right now, to talk about that as much as they can and start getting people's attention focused on it, because next week's coverage from the Republican convention in Milwaukee, where I will be, and we'll talk about how I get on this show from there. But that coverage is going to be a lot about the extreme right-wing hold that the Heritage Foundation and people of their ilk have on that party.
I want to get to down ballot, which we'll do in a second. I don't know. I mean, I can speak to this as well as you. Randy asks, ask Shure which parts of Project 2025 could realistically be implemented and how. There are a bunch of them could be realistically implemented. I mean, I think. Am I wrong, Mike? I mean, they would be disastrous, but they could be implemented.
Yeah, I think the most important part is taking control of the Justice Department, taking control of the Department of Commerce, like making those departments, making them partisan, basically, right? And undoing the evenness with which the government agency look. If there's a Democrat in charge, the secretary is a Democrat. If there's a Republican, the secretary is a Republican. But the rank and file, the people who go every day, those people have they have a job to do every day, whoever the head of the company is, and so I think that would be a big change, especially when it comes to the FBI, the Department of Justice. I think also that it's going to be very easy, or much easier, with executive support to bring the Christian right into the American politics, and I think that you're seeing that in small ways, but if it's part of executive order, that could be easily implemented. I could probably look at a list of things and say what would be most easy, but the Justice Department and I think the nationalizing of Christianity would be the two that I would look at.
Yeah, and the filling of these agencies with loyalists, Justice Department chief among them.
Partisan agencies is all you need to know. I mean,
that's exactly right. And of course, they're talking about closing down. They articulate the desire to close down the Department of Education, and
but that's a threat that's happened a lot, and that would be if the gentleman or woman who just wrote in just now was skeptical of whether or not this could happen, or if it's just a lot of bluster. Closing the Department of Education is something we've heard from Republicans for a very long time. This stuff, you've seen it happening. You've seen the action behind it already, and making it partisan is different than actually eliminating it.
They depleted the State Department when they were in power, Michael, and it seems to me you can easily deplete and rob of funding the Department of Education, for example. Any of these government agencies can be rendered sort of husks just based on funding. Now,
for sure, and you're right. I mean, the perfect example is the Department of State, and that's executive power, right? Are we nominating ambassadors and consulates? Well, maybe not. We don't have to. We're not going to do it. So that is executive authority right there.
Anything else for Michael? Oh, I wanted to ask you about down ballot races. Then I'll let you go, pal. You're so generous to be with us.
No Djokovic, no Alcaraz.
Don't say anything. I recorded it, and so much is going on this morning. Please, that was fine. We're fine, but I've been very careful not to get advisories or whatever. So
that's fine. I mean,
okay.
It's exciting to have Musetti in the semifinals. I love it.
All right. So, I want to ask you about down ballot. Just give me the realities on this. And when I see down ballot, when I see those involved in down ballot races beginning to question whether or not Biden should be part of the effort, I wonder, what are the realities on that in terms of the ripple effect that Biden has, positive and negative?
Well, it's what they're hearing from voters and advisors, and wanting not to be. Look, I think the president answered this question pretty well last night at the press conference. He said everybody who runs for a down ballot race, whether it's the House or the Senate, has a choice to distance themselves or attach themselves to the president. He gets it. He did it when he was running for Senate. Sometimes he'd want to run with, whether it be Carter or whether or Mondale or whomever, and sometimes you want to distance yourself from that person. The Senate is so tight right now that I can see senators like John Tester, like Jackie Rosen, senators in purple states or red states, having a difficult time with an association with a failing ticket. It's not so much the guy as it is the vulnerability of the guy. And when you're vulnerable in politics, it's terrible. So I think, I wouldn't sound alarm bells yet, because the polling is not sophisticated on House races in July before an election. But I would say that's going to be a determining factor in what Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer say to the president in trying to change course.
How much time do we have on this?
I think you have to go into the convention with a little momentum. The convention starts on the 19th of August, the Democratic Convention in Chicago. This is going to be known before then. I think the week after the Republican convention, you let their polling sit where it does, and then soon thereafter, between a week after the Republican convention and probably a week before the Democratic convention, this has to be determined and decided, and then people have to get behind President Biden or whoever is the other person. But if it is Biden and he's intransigent, Democrats are going to have to make their mind up that they've got to go with him.
So you're going to cover the Republican convention. Is that what you're going to do?
Yes, I am.
So that'll be next week?
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Milwaukee. You have on the way out, any kind of prediction as to who the running mate will likely be for Donald Trump?
And I think a lot of what's happening on the Democratic side is determining that. I think, Kim brought something up about a woman on the ticket. If there's a woman on the ticket, it changes the calculus for the Republicans who are trying to determine that. My guess is that it's going to be somebody who's non-controversial, somebody like Doug Burgum, former governor from North Dakota, or governor of North Dakota, people that aren't going to make a lot of splash, because if you have a lot of splash and the Democrats outsplash you, there's a risk. I'm overthinking it a little bit, but I think that they're going to go in the direction of more muted, but I could be, obviously way off. There are a lot of names out there.
Yeah, I mean, so that seems consistent with sort of Trump's general reflex move, which is to get somebody that he can dominate and that he can, you sit in the corner there and I'll let you know when I need you type thing.
Right, but having a woman on the ticket, even as an insurance policy, should it be Vice President Harris he's running against, is, I think, certainly something they're thinking about more.
Interesting. All right. Well, I hope we can work it out so that you can join us next week. But one way or the other, I appreciate you being here this week. And thank you for not talking more about tennis, because I am recording it all. I've been very busy. I watched some, but it takes time to watch these long 5-set matches.
That's true. And set aside time. So.
Yeah. So, but love our time together, and look for
I
Michael.
think we'll be able to pre-tape from the convention maybe next Thursday night.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, we'll get that done then. How about it for Michael Shure, everybody? Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, guys.
Woohoo! I love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Love my Michael Shure.
I do too.
I want a turbo newscast. I'll get to the Culture Blaster situated here in studio. If you're new, we have one of the great movie reviewers on earth. He also reviews music and obscure subtitled film and documentary. There's no bit of cinema that he doesn't truly have an abiding interest in. He's a fan of the Marvel universe, or the DC universe, all that comic book stuff. I mean, he's really quite unique. We're very lucky to have him. So we'll get to him after Kim's news. So smash the like button if you would. A little bit of news, and then Culture Blaster joins. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. A majority of Americans want to curb immigration into the United States for the first time in nearly 2 decades. There's a Gallup survey that finds 55% of respondents want immigration numbers to reduce. A quarter want it to stay the same. 16% want it to increase. The numbers come as cities across the U.S. try to deal with a migrant surge. Wall Street booming today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average hitting a new high earlier in the session, topping more than 40,000 points for the first time since hitting the milestone in May. It also traded above 500 points today. The S&P 500 has been trading above its record high throughout the session as well. Donald Trump going after George Clooney. Apparently George Clooney is the new person to go after. While on the Clay and Buck show, Trump said he wasn't surprised about reports that Clooney got the okay to ask Biden to step down from former President Barack Obama. I don't know if that's how it worked out, but here's what Trump
Obama hates Biden and Biden hates Obama. We know that because that's been for a long time. Obama wanted Hillary, not Biden, and Biden never forgot that. They hate each other.
Okay.
Wow, it feels like there's some drops there.
Trump was referring to Clinton's nomination over Biden in 2016. Trump said Clooney's New York Times op-ed was an act of disloyalty. He added he thinks Clooney is a third-rate actor and he's no Clark Gable.
Wow.
So,
that's so good.
Good day, sir.
Yeah.
Clooney put himself in the line of Trump fire, so there it is.
Wow, that's quite extraordinary.
Speaking of Trump, he's scheduled to be at one of the biggest cryptocurrency conferences of the year.
Oh my
Seriously, Bitcoin 2024. Woohoo! It will take place from July 25th through the 27th. 2024! I knew it was coming. In Nashville, organizers say that Trump announced his support for the American Bitcoin industry in May and is advocating for financial freedom.
Oh my God.
You got to get it. Michael Hiltzik on to talk about that.
Yeah.
The fire near Mount Baldy has burned more than 2,800 acres of land. Firefighters brought containment up from 0 to 13% overnight. That fire in the San Bernardino National Forest has been burning for 6 days in an area about 7 miles from Little Creek. A chance of thunderstorms this weekend, bringing the risk of lightning, could impact firefighting operations. California is honoring a Vacaville police officer killed in the line of duty. Governor Newsom ordering flags to be lowered at the state capitol, saying Matthew Bowen's service and sacrifice will not be forgotten. The 32-year-old officer was making a traffic stop on his motorcycle yesterday when a car slammed into him. The woman driving reportedly tried to run off, but witnesses held her for police. She is now in jail on charges of homicide and DUI as well. The state of California no longer drought-free. The latest map shows major changes for the first time in 9 months. 20% of California is now abnormally dry. A section of Siskiyou County is at the moderate drought level. This is due to record-breaking heat waves and a lack of significant rainfall over the last 8 weeks. But nearly all reservoirs remain full. The return of drought conditions, though, raising the risk of more wildfires. Speaking of wildfires, you know how insurance companies are trying to check out? Well, get ready for sticker shock. One of the state's largest insurers is asking to raise rates by an average of 34%. Allstate already hiked prices 3 times over the last 5 years. The company says it is simply costing more to help residents recover from accidents and disasters. The request is larger than the 30% increase State Farm is pushing for. If approved, it would affect 350,000 customers. A San Francisco lawmaker who spent $80,000 in campaign funds on 49ers tickets, is facing a bit of an investigation. State Assembly member Matt Haney is being investigated for possibly violating state campaign finance laws. He says he didn't do it, but according to the filings, Haney has spent more than $80,000 on Niners tickets since the beginning of 2023. Each of those expenditures are listed as sporting event tickets for campaign fundraiser.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Can you do that? I don't know if you could do that.
No, you cannot.
No, you can't. Oh, is that against the rules?
I think it would be, but...
Hey, what if you're campaigning at the 49ers game? I mean...
well, I'm sure that will be the argument. I have to get out there with my public, you know.
Gotta press the flash, shake the palms at the Niners game.
If I didn't categorize it the right way.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, do you think speed bumps will stop the sideshows? Maybe make them a little more interesting.
Yeah, can't hurt.
San Francisco is taking this action. Crews installing speed bumps at the corner of Divisadero and California streets. When neighbors say, hey, it's about time. They've been seeing drivers doing donuts at that intersection for more than 2 years. I think it'll just increase the excitement of the donuts, get it a little more bumpy.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Air.
I don't know. I'm a tough law and order. I like peace and quiet. I don't like these donuts, and I'm an angry guy.
I'm just going to say it's going to enhance the donuts. It's going to get them, they're going to get a little more action in there.
Let me ask Mr. Predicto if it will make a difference with the... Mr. Predicto, will this change the...
Yes, it is certain.
Well, so it will make a difference, says Mr. Predicto. Okay, Mr. Predicto, go back over there to the green room. Anyway, interesting.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
There's in
Michael,
honor
you
of-
don't mind Mr. Predicto, do you?
This is a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Okay, I knew you felt that way, Michael.
In honor of Florida and Friday and being fabulous, there's a mother accused of inciting a riot outside of a Florida skating rink. The Hillsborough County Sheriff says 36-year-old Stephanie Pedroso posted a message encouraging people to gather outside Astro Skate near Tampa back in May. The sheriff says Pedroso was willing to pay people to cause damage to the business after her daughter's birthday party at the rink was canceled due to a lack of security. Hundreds of people showed up, causing fights and at least $500 worth of damage. She's been arrested. Yeah.
Yikes.
That's not good.
No,
And
not
lastly,
good at all.
how about a little bit of a pleasant story? Some of the world's top sailors are gathering in San Francisco this weekend, taking part in a racing tournament in hopes of winning $2 million. It's double the prize purse from last year, and it'll be a great windy weekend on the water. So, big sailing. If you see a lot of boats on the bay, that's what's happening this weekend.
That's terrific, yeah.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is a place to get a little bit of heaven in your cup. Go on, take a sip. You know you want to.
Yeah, the sip of
good.
Coachella Valley coffee is about the best sip on earth. They have the cold brew now. That's right. You've got a cold brew coffee at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Get it. Let it steep overnight. You can even let it steep like 19 hours if you really want it to. Get that, and then it's just this delicious iced coffee. They take you through the instructions on how to get it, so definitely check it out. There's also loose leaf tea, bag tea. They've got all these different kinds of teas, so you can make iced tea. And everything there. It's just is handled by hand. They roast the coffee beans by hand. Even as they've grown, and they've really grown, they still manage everything personally. And that's really what I love about Coachella Valley Coffee. But I'll also say, you know, if they just did that and the coffee wasn't great, I wouldn't make such a big deal out of it. It's the best coffee I've ever tasted. And I think their products across the board are some of the best tasting you'll ever encounter. So go to CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, order anything you want, as much as you want. You can order a subscription, whatever it might be, but make sure you use the discount code MARKT, and you'll get 10% off of anything that you order. But go crazy. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, MARKT at checkout.
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson? 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 Who's Mark Thompson?
All right. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Fridays are always a fun day. Thank you for being here. Did you tweet today, Albert, that we were on the air or not?
I did.
You did? Okay. Gosh, thank you. I don't know why I didn't see that. Kind of.
Albert, thank you.
Anyway. Michael, would you like us to delay longer, or are you ready?
I'm ready when you are, Ridley.
All right. All right, let's do it. Albert, I'm not going to delay any longer. I'm tempted to because I enjoy delaying.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, wait a minute. There is something I want to get to, Michael. I'm sorry. I thought I saw an extraordinary contribution that came into the show, and I don't understand why I wasn't apprised of it, Albert. I blame you, Albert, for that. I mean, what happened? I see Sausalito Steve, $15 super chat.
Big shout out.
That's super cool, Sausalito Steve. Thank you. I appreciate that. $15. Hooray for gay furry hackers, says DeHagval. Can you explain that, Albert? $10 super.
Big shout out.
This was during Florida, so I'm pretty locked in during Florida. This did come in during that
Oh,
segment.
I see. So you didn't get these because of Florida. Still, I'm sure you'd like to apologize.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
I'll just give you a my bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay. Jay Branson, thank you, Team Mark. Thank you. Is it Joy? Sorry, Joy Branson. Thank you, Joy.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. And I'd like to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So much, darling. And we did have Andrew Gilliam could beat DeSantis in Florida, 33,000 votes. Yeah, the Andrew Gilliam story in Florida is fascinating. But anyway, thank you, No Nintendo. And Valerie. Oh, this is Julie. I'm sorry. Let me just I can make this screen bigger. This is a mess, Michael. I'm sorry. Valerie, thank you for $50. That is super
big shout out.
Big. Wow, that super helps us. I'm going to say thank you so much. In fact, I'm going to say thank you
so much.
It speaks to the little girl in me.
Thank you so much.
That really is great, Valerie. So cool of you. Did I get everybody? Julie, hope you got my monthly Patreon MTS. You bring so much joy to the day. Yes, I'm sure we did. Patreon is really the way that on an ongoing basis so many of you support, among them Julie. Thank you, Julie.
Big shout
out to you. Have a great weekend. Vivian Al-Shawa for my husband's 62nd birthday. Born in 62 and turned 62. Vivian Al-Shawa, big shout out. Happy birthday to your husband. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And Kim actually put up the birthday background for you. And speech impediment versus mental decline, says No Contendo for $5 super chat. No Contendo says media needs to be able to tell the difference between speech impediment and mental decline. New York Times, not medical doctors. They need to sit down. CNN isn't any better.
Good day, sir.
That's right. SCOTUS ain't trying to help Senator Bob Menendez. No, not yet, said No Contendo. That's it. That catches us up. Cindy, thank you. Mark, Kim, and Albert, always giving us a superb show. Thank you, Cindy, for taking a moment and throwing us a 5 spot as a super chat. And Michael, which will happen first, a Rangers Stanley Cup or a presidential candidate under 70 being elected? That's from Luis, and that was from Michael Shure.
Big shout out.
Did you want to comment on that, Albert?
We'll save that one for next week.
All right. Okay. How many VPs have won? There have been 15 VPs who've become president, in answer to that question, Harry. All right. Well, I'd love to delay further because Michael Snyder has checked his watch so many times that it's clearly bothering him to wait. And I feel that it's really getting under his skin. And I have a fork in the road here. I could just drive him to total lunacy by delaying longer, or I could mercifully get to some business and we could do the Culture Blaster as we should. So now, without any further delay, I want to welcome a guy who is remarkable. The breadth of things he knows and truly is a fan of when it comes to cinema, streaming, music. He is without peer. He comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for the Culture Blaster? Michael Snyder.
Yeah, Mark, I checked in with Mr. Predicto an hour ago, and he said you were going to go really, really long, and I should gird my loins, and so I've done so.
All right.
And, he's kind of a charlatan, but he was right this time. Right. Look, it behooves me to say this before we get down to business. I'm riding with Biden.
Huh?
I'd walk a mile for a Kamala, and I am not going to sway from voting blue, voting Dem, no matter who they present as our presidential candidate. It's just the way it is.
Is a ding.
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you.
It may be a little premature since it's actually Sunday, but let me be the first to wish you and yours a happy Bastille Day 2024.
What happened on Bastille Day, Michael?
They
stormed
French
the Bastille?
Stormed the Bastille. Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Although, to be honest, I never joined a fraternity back in college. Not my thing. On the other hand, I am a big fan of liberty and equality. Yeah. And do you have any Bastille Day plans, Mark?
My mother is a massive Francophile, as you know. She is, I assume, doing something for Bastille Day.
I will be spending my Sunday storming the local patisseries, gorging on croissants and pain au chocolat, and maybe washing them down with absinthe. Don't judge me, mon frere.
Yeah.
And by the way, before we get to the movies, Bardo a Go-Go's Bastille Day party is Saturday night. That's tomorrow night, July 13th, at the Rickshaw Stop with DJ Brother Grimm. It's a celebration of French independence at the stroke of midnight as Le 14 Juillet, July 14th, officially kicks in on the left coast, and you can dance to vintage French yaya pop from the likes of Serge Gainsbourg, France Gall, Jacques Dutronc, and many more. And all the kids show up in their mod 60s style.
Oh, that's
garb.
kind of cool.
It's so much fun. And they do it annually at the Rickshaw Stop in San Francisco.
Well, this, Trevor says, a classic Michael Snyder time waster.
That's exactly what it is. I'm going to give tit for tat, my friend.
Julie says, Michael, just love your wit. Isn't that sweet?
That is kind of you, Julie, and I love you listening and being so supportive. Let's talk movies because we do have a limited amount of time.
Yes, sir, please.
Fly Me to the Moon is a meet-cute period romance, but it's also a workplace comedy, and the workplace is NASA in the late 60s. It's a toothless but sometimes amusing conspiracy thriller about the Apollo 11 mission to the moon, and it's a proto-feminist tract about what a smart, savvy gal needed to do to be taken seriously in the pre-women's lib days.
Is it one of the hidden figures, one of the three women who talked it?
No,
It's
sir.
not a follow-up spin-off on that?
No, the issue here, by the way, is that this movie doesn't know what it wants to be, even as it wants to be so many things. Okay, here's the setup.
Okay.
America is on the verge of its space program, sending men to land on the moon, but the public is not so on board after a tragic accident on the launch pad. And if you know, you know. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's that's an actual accident.
Congress wants to trim the budget, scotching the moon mission to some extent. So the powers that be decide to hire Manhattan marketing whiz Kelly Jones, played by Scarlett Johansson. This is the fictional stuff, by the way.
I see. It's against the real backdrop you just described.
Exactly.
But now it's a
and
fiction.
so she's compelled to travel to Cape Canaveral in Florida and burnish NASA's image to get the financing needed. There, she meets handsome, stuffy launch director Cole Davis, played by Channing Tatum, and sparks fly, kind of. They're initially oil and water, and you know how these things go. There seems to have been a serious desire to depict the nuts and bolts of the Apollo program in a somewhat accurate way. And then there's the secret agent antics of Woody Harrelson's character, who wants Kelly to oversee a PR failsafe in case the mission goes bad. And that's part and parcel of the film. And since we're supposed to root for Kelly and Cole, I was just grateful that ScarJo and to a lesser extent Tatum delivered to a point. Their chemistry and the rom-com aspects of this is decent, but it doesn't fizz in a way that would elevate the whole deal. But it is good that Johansson is such a charmer and does have a flair for light comedy, which comes into play. She made the experience of watching this thing pleasurable. And to be fair, the art direction, costuming, and special effects are generally on point. And it does have some genuinely funny scenes, mostly involving a supporting role played by Jim Rash as a bitter avant-garde filmmaker reduced to shooting commercials and then brought into the fold for this PR gesture.
Yeah, somebody's saying in the chat that guy steals the movie.
Definitely does. By the way, Jim Rash is for those of you like me who are cartoon fans, Jim Rash is the voice of Gyro Gearloose in the wonderful reboot of DuckTales. But I digress. Fly Me to the Moon blasts off into so many different directions that it sometimes loses focus and it undermines suspension of disbelief. And at just over 2 hours, it's pretty cumbersome for what should be breezy entertainment. Two casting notes. Ray Romano plays a stressed-out mission director and does a good job, while a certain Saturday Night Live news anchor related to Scarlett has a cameo that earns a laugh because of who he is. Fly Me to the Moon was directed by Greg Berlanti, the showrunner behind the CW's long-running string of DC superhero dramas. Some were good, some not so good. But with this movie, he moved from science fiction to fiction about science fact. Should they have scrubbed the mission? I'll give it a grudging pass. Pleasant, but not particularly memorable, especially when you consider how memorable the moon landing was to those who were alive when it happened. Fly Me to the Moon is in theaters.
It's pointed out by Alan, Sinatra is not heard singing the song title. How could they, he says.
Well, probably licensing fees were massive.
Yeah, and it's all money's going. Look at this, Audrey W. I don't mean to interrupt, but I think I just...
Of course you do.
Think of this as a punctuation to your segment. Audrey W. gives us $100. Democracy first, she says. Born on Bastille Day, Michael. You owe her a big happy birthday.
Viva Audrey! Bon anniversaire, mon cher.
Big shout out. Stay safe, all. Excellence in show. Hosts, guests, friends, and producers are excellent always. And Audrey, we adore you. I will give you a British thank you, says so much. And what can I say? I'm taken by her.
Thank you.
I give you 4 thank yous. I'm going to give you another 4 thank yous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
You know what?
Thank you,
I'd like to
Audrey.
thank you, Mark, for letting me continue right now.
Okay, sorry, but Michael, we don't exist without people like Audrey contributing.
I heard.
How dare you?
That's why you
Thank you
run
so
that
much.
crawl at the end of the show. Come
All
on.
right, I'm sorry, Audrey. Thank you for your generosity.
I appreciate her. I would like to actually dedicate the next review to her.
All right, go for it.
Maybe she
then.
won't like that, but I'll tell you. Nicolas Cage continues his current run of notable genre movies, with the good ones far outweighing the clunkers. The horror movie Long Legs is his latest, although Cage, as the incredibly creepy title character, is sort of a secret weapon here. He doesn't have as much screen time as you might expect, and he doesn't do much more than act in his fully unhinged mode, as in like bat guano crazy and deadly, but damn, he is one effective monster. Written and directed by actor Oz Perkins, who previously directed The Black Coat's Daughter and Gretel and Hansel, Long Legs introduces a new villain to the pantheon of freaky movie serial killers, and though it might recall other horror movies here and there with this reference and that reference, it's got enough freshness to its antagonist and his methodology to feel like something different instead of the same old IP. The story is told from the point of view, for the most part, of a young female FBI agent with mild psychic abilities who's trying to help the agency solve a series of similar murder cases wherein someone goes bonkers at home for no appreciable reason and kills a bunch of family members. So Agent Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe, may have some paranormal skills, but she also has mother issues and at least one troubling encounter in her past, which may very well come into play as she seeks the twisted, possibly mystical, and certainly devilish mastermind behind the string of deaths that she's investigating. There are temporal shifts and changing aspect ratios to reflect those shifts and what appear to be Harker's remote viewing skills, even as Cage goes off, and those scenes are generally terrifying. Monroe is a solid center to the story and is well supported by Blair Underwood as her boss at the FBI and Alicia Witt as her off-kilter mother. At about 100 minutes, this is super tight and very unsettling as Perkins and his cast ratchet up the dread. I am not sure if Long Legs will have legs at the box office, but I do think horror fans will stride out to the theaters to see it and shriek, and it may very well become even bigger when it reaches streaming, which should be, soonish. It's in theaters at the moment.
Wow. Another horror offering that you think actually hits the mark.
Next, we have something that's a little more in your wheelhouse, Mark, I think.
Right.
The Convert is quite a good historical drama about the clash of Maori tribes in 1830s New Zealand with British settlers caught between the factions. And it is the work of Kiwi filmmaker Lee Tamahori, who directed and co-wrote the script. Tamahori first gained acclaim with Once Were Warriors, his stirring 1994 drama about the strains of modern Maori life. And that led to an eventual slot as director of a middling James Bond movie, Die Another Day, and some other action detritus. As far as I can tell, this is Tamahori's first movie since 2016, and it struck me as a return to form, probably because the plight of the Maori resonates for him, since he himself is part Maori and part European. It has great, sweeping natural beauty. It's shot in New Zealand. It's first-rate battle sequences as tribes armed with British muskets, the usual machetes and such, face off for dominance, and British traders and settlers are put at risk. And it has some impactful interpersonal drama. The central figure here is Thomas Monroe, an ex-soldier turned lay preacher, played by Aussie leading man Guy Pearce. Monroe gets passage via trading ship to a British settlement on the coast of New Zealand, but before he gets to the town, which has hired him to oversee church services, he's drawn into an intertribal conflict that ends with him saving a chieftain's daughter and becoming her protector, which is kind of, intriguing. And when Monroe and the young woman get to town, it doesn't take long before he realizes that the colonists are fearful and hateful towards the Maori. Except for one kind-hearted white woman, played by Jacqueline McKenzie, who speaks the native language, was embraced by a tribe, and is shunned by the Brits because of it. Since the warlords of the two largest local tribes have it in for one another in a struggle to control the entire area, this is a tinderbox, and something's got to give. Pierce is typically great, as is McKenzie, and Tiarore Nagate Melbourne, it's a Maori name, so forgive me. She's fantastic as the chieftain's daughter. I'm still thinking about The Convert a few days after watching it. It's a visual treat and a very thoughtful exploration by Tamahori of what the indigenous people faced from within, even as they dealt with heedless colonizers trying to take advantage of them. It's in select theaters, and it is streaming on demand.
Heedless is a ding word. Wow, you really liked it. It sounds provocative.
I thought it was very good. This is not the greatest stuff in the world, but I thought it was very good.
Okay.
I do want to wrap up with the gem of the week. It's called Touch, and it is a lovely movie adapted from Olafur Johan Olafsson's novel about a cross-cultural romance that spans decades, telling its story with spirit and measured elegance. I mean, how cross-cultural? All right. A young Icelandic man named Christopher is studying in swingin' London as the 60s flip to the 70s. He quits school and gets a job in a Japanese restaurant and falls for the owner's daughter, Miko. 50 years on, the now elderly protagonist returns to London at the height of the COVID pandemic with the clock ticking, so he attempts to find and reunite with his lost love. This is co-written and directed by Icelandic actor-director Baltasar Kormákur. Touch is graced by winning performances from its cast, too, young and old, especially Egil Olafsson as the elder Christopher, and Koki, she's got a single name, kind of like Madonna, as the younger Miko. There are evocative locations in Iceland, England, and Japan, and a very cool soundtrack, especially during the 60s scenes. It's in Icelandic, Japanese, and English, with English subtitles when needed, and it is in select theaters.
That sounds super intriguing, actually. I'm kind of excited to see that. Touch, it's called.
I liked it very, very much.
Yeah. Just a quick walk back, some of the stuff you have reviewed, and then maybe we can get to a TV recommendation. Touch is the unrequited love story, where the older man now goes back to try to claw back a piece of his past. Am I right, Michael?
That sounds accurate enough.
Yes. Touch, and there are some subtitles, but
it's very touching.
Yeah. The Convert, the historical drama with the Maori tribes against the British in New Zealand. Nothing good happened with the British in New Zealand to the Maori tribes, but I guess there is some good and complicated story with this particular offering. It's very good, Michael said, and he recommended it with some brilliant performances along the way. He also liked Longlegs, the Nicolas Cage film. He said it's a piece of horror, but you think that while it's not ringing every bell, it's pretty good.
Oh, it's quite good for horror fans. I recommend it. And Nicolas Cage, you scary beast. Oh,
he
my
is
God.
Prolific these days, too.
He is.
Fly Me to the Moon is the period romance, takes place at NASA. Sadly, it doesn't involve the Hidden Figures kids. I would like to see something, maybe they could dust that off and do a spin-off. I love those women. But this is Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. And they initially, of course, don't get along. But then a romance breaks out. And so they're both engineering a moon mission and engineering a romance. I mean, this strikes me as intriguing. You, though, said maybe, but kind of misses.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You know what? This is my Kim McAllister Gold Star recommendation for the weekend. It's the one movie of the four that I think that Kim would just use as kind of popcorn munching fun.
Oh, okay. Well, Kim can take that then and maybe plan her weekend, integrate it into her weekend. Before we leave, throw me a TV a recommendation.
Okay, 2 quick TV recommendations. First, because I am comic book animation and fun boy. Star Trek Prodigy has its second season on Netflix now, moving from Paramount Plus, and it is an animated program about kids that hijack a spaceship and have to deal with Starfleet coming after them, and this is the aftermath of that, which happened in the first season. And it features a lot of your favorite Star Trek characters voiced by the original actors, and one of the central figures in both seasons is Kate Mulgrew's captain and now Admiral Catherine Janeway, who is a mentor to the kids, first as a hologram and then the real flesh and blood Admiral Janeway. Star Trek Prodigy, it's a family thing. It's fun. If you like Star Trek, it's got a lot of references to the franchise. And for grown-ups, and something rather au courant, lively and timely, Douglas is Canceled, which I think you can purchase on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. It's a 3 or 4 episode drama with tongue-in-cheek, with satirical overtones and undertones, created and written by Stephen Moffat, the guy who did Jekyll, did Sherlock, and pretty terrific Dracula, and was one of the showrunners on Doctor Who. And I bring it up because it's about a news anchor and he's an older man, and his lovely young co-anchor, and they are played by Hugh Bonneville, who is, of course, one of the stars of Downton Abbey, and Karen Gillan, Amy Pond on Doctor Who, one of the stars of the Marvel Universe as, the daughter of Thanos, on top of everything else, Alex Kingston, who was also a regular on Doctor Who, is here as the wife of the Hugh Bonneville character. Hugh Bonneville's character is caught saying something questionable on video at a wedding, and it blows back on him and threatens to overturn his career. And
wow.
It's, again, Douglas is Canceled. I thought it was pretty entertaining and also somewhat thought-provoking.
And again, it's on what platform?
I think you can get it on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. I think it's for purchase right now, but I'm sure one of the streamers is going to pick it up as part of their format and their schedule. And
I love it.
Bill of fare.
Love it. Find Michael Snyder when he's not here at the Voice of San Francisco, voiceofsf.org. Yeah, thevoicesf.org. Got to put the in there. Thevoicesf.org. He's got musings of all sorts. He's a great writer. He's got scripts that are at studios, and he's modest. He doesn't peacock about this stuff, but he is very talented, and his writing can be seen at thevoicesf.org. Michael?
Yeah, buddy.
Anything in conclusion?
Nothing other than to say to Randy that I thought pretty highly of The Acolyte and talked about it. I don't have a chance to oftentimes look at the chat while we're doing our segment.
I see you, Randy.
But I noticed that. And yeah, we talked about it here on the Mark Thompson show.
Yes, thank you for watching, Randy. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
Bon 14 juillet, everybody, and go Giants.
Yes, Michael Snyder, the culture blaster. Wow. We got it all in.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know what to say. Is there anything in the chat I need to respond to? I know we're dealing with, the new inflation numbers are fairly good, so there might be a chance to see interest rates fall. Maybe in the autumn. In the autumn months, they'll drop it. I think September they're talking about it, perhaps. Like they could drop the interest rate by 0.5 percentage point. But we've really got a pretty good economic situation. I will talk more about this next week, but I've noted it along the way. I mean, the inflationary spiral that would accompany a Trump presidency would be insane. Trump's talking about tariffs in the 50 to 60% category, even a 10% tariff, another one, on Chinese goods, he doesn't get how tariffs work. It's inflationary. So the price of your stuff is going to go up. You say, well, I don't buy stuff from China. No, the price of everything's going to go up. Because all of a sudden you're raising price points, and so all competitors can raise price points. It's inflationary.
Aren't the Trump ties made in China?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a faux battle anyway. And then, of course, his idea of deporting 10 million people, that's incredibly inflationary too. The expenditure associated with that would be, look, again, not saying that there's not a border problem, et cetera, but these bizarro plans that come out of Trump's ass, they will truly be the undoing economically if that's all you care about. Love the Prodigy review. Finally, the Blaster gets a Trek show in. Wow, how about that? Yeah, Michael Snyder gets some love, and it's not just love.
I'm a Trekker. I mean, I think Strange
Scott
New Worlds
Rittenberg put some money where his love is.
Nice.
I like that.
Thanks, Michael Snyder. By the way, he says, we started a Star Trek club in my building. Prodigy is our start. Oh, that's very cool. I love that.
Yeah, seriously, Strange New Worlds Series 2 or 3, I don't know. I think it's Series 3.
Yeah,
maybe.
you love Strange New Worlds.
It's coming up. I thought that was just aces.
Oh, there you go, Scott. There's your tip from the Culture Blaster. All right, well, that's...
Last story to throw at you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
What is that?
The bookmakers have spoken. They're taking odds on who will be Trump's vice presidential running mate. And they say Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is the favorite. That's what they say.
J.D. Vance is a smack talker, and he may be what Trump wants. Somebody out there who is going to smack talk and be as unhinged as Trump is, and J.D. Vance is that person. Wow. The whole scene on that side of the ball, on that side of the political spectrum, is scary. I mean, it really is.
What can you tell us about the scene?
It's scary, Larry. The entire thing is scary. We are excited about a weekend that I hope brings you peace and happiness. And Monday, we will be here live again. So until then,
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you for all the support, everybody. Appreciate that. Kim's next with the after party.
Bye-bye.
The after party live going on now with the after party live station until Monday. Bye-bye.